Welcome to Black and Gold Digital Edition, a behind-the-scenes look at your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hi, and welcome to Week 16 of our digital show, and Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Jay Pushko alongside Kent Urbanski and Mike Fenner. And guys, a major gut punch this week as Franco Harris passing away on Wednesday. Everyone was getting ready to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. They're still going to celebrate it, but it has definitely taken a different twist and turn. And Mike, you were down at practice on Wednesday. I mean, just a huge blow to this franchise for a guy that was so beloved by the city.
No doubt. It's a huge gut punch. Perfectly said. We got a chance to talk with Coach Mike Tomlin, Cam Hayward notably. I thought Hayward did a great job of representing the Steelers and their thoughts on the passing because, I mean, he's the captain, he's the leader, and he just did such an eloquent job of describing the way he's made such an impact across the span of 50-plus years, across the span of not only Steelers fans, but just everyone across the NFL, inside and outside of the league, the impact he's had on and off the field in the community. I mean, he does everything for that community in Pittsburgh, has for years, and has meant so much to the Steeler Nation. Started that dynasty, as we all know, at the Immaculate Reception, the first playoff win, part of 4 Super Bowl championships in the 70s. But he really did a good job of detailing, you know, how much of an impact he had, not only on the field, which is obvious, but everything he did away from the field, and certainly a huge, huge loss for Steeler Nation.
And Kent, when you see the Steeler alums year in and year out, the Mel Blunts, the Rocky Bleilers, Franco was one of those guys that always came back to the city too. He never shied away from the experiences and the successes that they had back in the 70s. And you yourself have had some moments with Franco.
Right, Franco was a true ambassador to Pittsburgh. You know, he stayed in Pittsburgh and made his home there, and he was just such an approachable, icon in that city that you go to Facebook yesterday and it was littered with people with photos with Franco. So what does that tell you about the type of ambassador that he was? So, my personal experiences with Franco date way back. Very approachable guy. I shared a seat next to him on an airplane going to Super Bowl 32 to California. Just a real quick story. I was sitting there back when Super Bowls fell on my birthday, which is middle of January, 3/4 of the way through January, and I pulled out a birthday card that my wife had slipped in my travel bag, and Franco sitting next to me acknowledged it. He said, "Hey, is it your birthday?" I said, "Well, it's coming up on Sunday." He said, "Well, let me see that." Flagged down the flight attendant for a pen and signed it, "Happy birthday, Franco Harris," and handed it back to Andy Russell, who was sitting back behind him. And then, the three of us had a good time the rest of the way, we'll put it that way, on out to San Diego. So, any time that Franco was on the field for any type of ceremonies, he was always very approachable, very willing to do anything that you asked him to do. And what can I say? When a lot of people talk about the Steelers organization and the turnaround, they start with Joe Green when he was drafted. But if you talk to Joe Green, he said, "We didn't start winning football games until Franco got here." So when you look at 40 years of losing seasons and then Franco comes in and turns things around, and then you get the Immaculate Reception in 72. That's what everything started from there. And to see him pass yesterday was like losing a member of the family.
Yeah, no question about it. And to think when he retired, he was the 3rd running back all time on the rushing list at that time. I mean, so just because he had the Immaculate Reception, that just didn't define his career.
Right.
He had an amazing run in winning 4 Super Bowl championships, and he was such a great ambassador, as you said, but even going back to his playing days at Penn State, I mean, this is a huge loss for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I mean, he's so beloved around these parts, from the western part of the state all the way to the side of Philadelphia. So it's going to be a tough emotional weekend for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but, as they say, they are professionals. They do have a game to look ahead. And, of course, Franco would want them to play in this game and do them justice by winning this one against the Raiders. And, of course, Pittsburgh coming off a big road win in Carolina, Mike. And now all of a sudden they've won 4 out of 6. They're 6-8 overall. There's still razor-thin odds of them making the playoffs, but they still have a shot. How do they take care of business on Saturday?
Got to take advantage of that cold weather because there's going to be cold temperatures, no doubt, at Acrisure Stadium. A lot of places around the country this weekend, it's going to be really cold football.
Yeah.
But I think you talk about going up against a team that plays indoors at the Allegiant Stadium, the Dome there in Las Vegas. You're going to have players that aren't so keen on playing in the cold on the other side of the ball. So I think that's the big advantage Pittsburgh has is is to try and take advantage of that by running the football successfully, staying ahead of the chains, and then you expect. We don't know at this exact second if Kenny Pickett will go, but he's expected to play if available, if cleared, will start. So that'll be a big lift and a big boost as well. I mean, Mitch Trubisky did a nice job of taking care of the ball last week at Carolina, but you want to have your rookie gunslinger in there to see, to see what he can build off of even more after some successful football that he's been playing lately since when he was back in.
And that's a great point. And Kent, that's something where it's another primetime game. It's a Christmas Eve game. It's a rivalry game. If you really want to stem back to the 70s and 80s between these two
Right.
franchises, I mean, this is a nice opportunity for Kenny, should he get the start, to experience these things
Right.
as his career continues to further along.
Hey, listen, he's got an opportunity here to be a hero on a special night, you know. But all the pressure doesn't have to be on him, you know. I think you're going to see a heavy run game Saturday night with these bitter temperatures, you know. And so for me, I'm really looking at ball security being a key factor here on a cold, frigid night. You get a bad snap with cold hands, cold fingers. You got a frozen
The
cold
ball is
ground,
slick.
you know. There could be a turnover too, and I like what you and I were talking about. The Steelers win this on an immaculate interception to win this game.
Could possibly happen. And we were even talking before we started how, because of the elements of the weather, I mean, who's not to say this ends up 13-7 like
Right.
it did 50 years ago? So,
Yeah.
I mean, some of those things number-wise could start be floating around. But let's turn our attention to even the defense too, Kent. We saw it last week against Carolina. 2 weeks before that, Carolina ran all over the Seattle Seahawks. Pittsburgh did an outstanding job in making Sam Darnold be the focal point.
Right.
He lived up to it for the first half, but boy, they shut him down in the second.
Right, you know, and they did make, Sam Darnold did make some key throws downfield, which kind of concerns me with Pittsburgh. And Devontae Adams is a much better receiver than anyone that we see on the Carolina Panthers. So,
I know. I have DJ Moore in fantasy football. He's not very good this year. Sorry, I had to do that.
Oh, that's
Couldn't
okay.
resist.
But that's the point I'm trying to make there is
score,
that,
though.
even though I think it's going to be a heavy run game, Devontae Adams, who came from Green Bay and is used to playing in frigid temperatures like that, could make some big plays down the field. They got to be cognizant of that. But I think the first order of business is you got to stop Josh Jacobs. He is such a
Leading
good
rusher in the
Oh
league.
my God! And,
Yep.
he's very good, and if they could stop him or at least slow him down a little bit, and maybe make David Carr,
Derek?
Derek Carr throw the ball downfield a little bit more and expose, himself to some interceptions or something like that in this cold weather, that could turn the tide of the game.
Yeah, the last time the Steelers played at home, they gave up a lot of yards to the Ravens. I mean, this could be a scary situation with the Raiders coming into town and having that running game and the way the Steelers' defense has been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the Raiders have been a lot similar to Pittsburgh in the fact that early in the season, they just had some bad breaks. I mean, this is a talented football team. A lot of people in the preseason pegged the Raiders to be going back to the playoffs after what they did last year. I mean, they had Cincinnati on the ropes, last year in the wild card game. This is a pretty talented team that added some pieces as we talked about in the offseason. But both these teams kind of peaking at the right time now. It's just unfortunate they have a couple more L's in the column, or else they could really be in the mix for that wild card. But this is a loser leaves town kind of game. Whoever loses this game is out of the picture. The winner still hangs on to those slim chances, but you never know. So both these teams have a lot to play for with just 3 weeks left in the season. Hard to believe we're already here.
I know, we're already reaching into the holiday season, and the Pittsburgh Steelers will be home to take on their rivals from out west, Las Vegas Raiders, in Week 16. For Kent Urbanski and Mike Fenner, I'm Jay Pushkar. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great holiday weekend.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for Black and Gold Digital Edition.